Welcome to Nights with Chris Boyle. I'm your host, Chris Boyle. Thanks for joining me tonight. Welcome back to Nights with Chris Boyle. Joining me now is Todd Sanders of Spirit Capital. It's a company that is getting folks financially invested in whiskey. As they say, invest in what you know, but let's learn a little more.
Looking for a new kind of investment? Cask Investment Deeds, backed by premium American whiskey, is a previously unavailable asset class that is recession-proof, offers double-digit returns, secured, and fully insured. The older it gets, the better it gets, the more valuable it becomes. Want a seat at the table? Get in at the barrel level. Connect with a cask deed specialist today.
So Todd, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So investing in whiskey, I've never heard of it before, but I'm immediately interested. They always say invest in what you know, and that's something I'm a consumer of myself. How'd you get started doing it? What is the business model, and how did you get started doing this?
So our business model is we're a company, we invest into whiskey. Okay, we buy barrels in order for see the appreciation of them long term. We have also created an alternative investment that provides an above average return, a very secured, transparent investment for accredited investor, higher net worth and family offices. But our main business model is we've created what's called the Distilled Barrels Financial Exchange. Okay. And it's the world's first digital platform that allows for the trading of the buying and selling of barrels, whether it be newly filled barrels, aged 10 years, 15 years, 3 years. We've created a concept that has an AI-driven pricing model, so that we can create a dynamic pricing mechanism to understand what these barrels are really worth versus what someone's just blanket opinion is on it. And it'll be a very helpful way for large players in the industry, distilleries, bottlers, brands, large investors, to not only trade their barrels, but have a true sense of what they're worth. So it's a SaaS model, it's a software as a service model. So it's subscription based plus transactional fees, and it's just gonna create a whole new world as to how the whiskey industry operates.
So just to clarify, I think a big part of this business model, just so folks at home can understand, is because these barrels have to be aged for so long. It's not like you get whiskey out of the still and bing, bang, boom, you can throw it into the glass. These are put into these beautiful barrels. They're put in storage facilities for a long time. And a big part of this, I understand, is these are being traded almost like stocks themselves during the storage period. Is that right?
Yeah, they can. I mean, you could see barrels trade hands a few times just while it's sitting in a rick house, and never moves, doesn't get tapped at all, and yeah, it could literally trade a few different times just based upon what maturity level it's at.
So out of curiosity, what first I got to ask, as someone who consumes whiskey, because I'm not a big distiller myself, so I got to think, I had a professor who once told me that everyone is tuned into the same radio station, WIIFM, What's in it for me radio, right? So I got to ask, for me, I'm not drinking whiskey today, I'm teetotaling for Lent, I'm a good boy. Is my whiskey going to be more or less expensive because of a product like this? Is this going to make more deals on the market, or is this going to end up inflating the market a little bit?
Well, I think what we're doing will actually see a tightening of pricing. Okay. And the ability for prices to come down. We're seeing just so far in 2024, the cost of the barrels, just the wood, has actually gone down, and at least the distillers that we deal with are passing that savings on to us because they're still able to maintain their same margin. And what we're doing, yeah, it probably will cause prices to go down, but it will increase the volume as well.
Yeah, because you were saying off the air, you mentioned that there's a lot of price inflation that goes on. There's a lot of speculation that goes on because it's really just kind of an old school barter and trade type method. You have a lot of intermediaries that are making calls, kind of putting pricing out there in a way that's not only subjective, but also very, very murky. And you guys are kind of seeking to take that out of the equation, right? So tell me a little bit, even though I'm not a distiller myself, tell us, because I'm sure there's plenty, I've actually had them on the show before. Tell us for distillers what the benefit would be for them in something like this.
Well, the benefit for them is certainly they would have, it's going to give them a more robust market to sell their barrels. It will give them a much wider audience because this will be global. I mean, you've got the number one market in whiskey is India.
No kidding.
Yeah, it is.
That's surprising.
It's United States is number 2. India is number 1.
I wouldn't have been surprised with like China or something because I know they like whiskey over there too.
They do, absolutely.
Oh, that's interesting. India, I never would have thought.
Yeah, but back to your point, so for a distillery to just have a wider audience rather than just calling a broker and saying, hey, I've got these, can you try and unload them for me? Now you can go out there on our exchange and you'll be able to say, okay, I've got 10,000 barrels of 5-year age Kentucky bourbon, 81 corn, and our AI-driven pricing model, will give a much tighter range as to what those barrels are worth based upon the thousands of data points that's in the AI. Everything from grain prices to inflation. I mean, you name it. There's a data point in there, so it's going to create much more value for these distillers as well on their overall product.
So out of curiosity, who's at the buyer's end? Obviously, I'm not going to go, as much as I would like to, I'm not going to go out and buy a barrel of whiskey. Wife at home, you don't need to be worried. But who is? Is this someone who's like someone who has a private label? Is this who's actually purchasing these barrels?
Yeah, there's a plethora of buyers. I mean, one, it is, whiskey has become a very big investment commodity. So there's a large market out there for that. There's even more and more just general investors, coming on board trying to buy barrels. Not something that we put out there, for people. We think it's a very tough market to play in. So that's how we mitigate the risk with one of the products that we have. But then you've got bottlers out there, and you've got brands. Most people don't know this, but most of the stuff that you see, different brands out there, they don't make it. A contract distillery makes it.
So for the people who, you said there's a potential for, I guess, just market players to get involved. Would this be like trading places where they're getting futures on something where I could end up with like a barrel of whiskey delivered at my door? Is it or is it like stocks where I'm going to end up with like 25% of a barrel of whiskey?
No. It's not. No. You're not going to wind up with a percentage of it. No. You actually could. Okay. Now it's not a futures market. Okay. It's not a it's not like that. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could you could be a bottler and you're buying it in order to take delivery of it.
Okay. That's cool. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. How did you start getting this? I mean, this is like a very, very niche field, but you're obviously not just someone who has a knowledge of whiskey. You're coming to this from obviously a business perspective. You have a knowledge of technology. What's your background?
So, I've been, my entire career, I've been involved in corporate finance, venture capital markets. So I've been involved in building companies, building management teams, creating strategic alliances and joint ventures. And I've been involved in a plethora of industries, from technology, medical device, natural foods, oil and gas. This came about, driven with my business background, mostly a lot of it from the tech point of view. And I got into it about a little over 5 years ago. I was asked to invest in a company that was had a bit to do with the whiskey industry.
Okay.
I didn't like their business model, but the whiskey aspect got me curious. And I spent a tremendous amount of time learning about whiskey as an asset class.
Okay.
And how the industry works. And then sitting down with our chief technology officer, Reza Hashemi, we just sat down and crafted a way to bring technology into this industry that doesn't have a lot of technology into it. I mean, the distilleries now are getting, getting heavily, tech involved in terms of, what they're doing and how they run their distillery. But to bring in this true technology-driven model.
Yeah, I remember the buzzword a few years back. I don't hear it anymore, but it was disruptors, right? People were finding markets where there was that opportunity to introduce new or contemporary technology where it hadn't been used before. Is this kind of what you're going for there?
Yeah, we are definitely bringing disruption to the industry. But everything that we're doing, we have seen, although disruption, of course, brings fear initially. But then once we sit there and we talk to a distillery owner or even a broker, and walk them through, the concepts and the nuances of how it will work, we are gaining, wow, this is fantastic.
Okay, so I have to ask, you obviously have a long background of bringing products to market, right? You've done, maybe not exactly with whiskey, but you've done similar things. You obviously have a business background. On the business end of this, so how long have you guys been operating, and at what point do you think you guys are going to be fully operational? I know you guys are still looking for investment capital as well, right?
Yeah, we are. We're doing an offering right now that is, it's called a Reg A offering. And it's available to anyone over 18. You don't have to be a high net worth investor. Anyone can participate and become a shareholder of our company. It was qualified by the SEC, so they've put us through a rigorous due diligence check, and they gave us the qualification. So yeah, anyone can participate in that.
And what's your timeline for development, right? Because if you're still looking for for financial input, you're still in the development stage. At what point do you guys think that this is going to be something where it's like off the ground, where people can jump in and get involved?
In the spring of this year.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
no kidding.
Yeah, we have been in development with this for a while, and in terms of technology term, our machines have been learning for the last 3 years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I have one more question for you. It's going to be a super important one. I want to ask you about the whiskey itself. This is one that folks at home are going to want to hear. We're going to have to take a super quick break, though. Folks at home will be back in 2. You're not going to want to miss this. Sit tight. Welcome back to Nights with Chris Boyle. Joining us once again is Todd Sanders of Spirits Capital. It's an organization that's getting people involved financially with whiskey. They're investing in barrels and getting them from the distillers to the people that are putting them in bottles. Now, I do have one question before we go. I want to leave a little time for you to be able to tell people where they can get involved themselves. But one last question is about the whiskey itself. Like I said, I'm a whiskey drinker. Obviously, I'm always thinking from my own perspective. I try to get outside of it. But how are you guys doing quality control when it comes to the whiskey that's going into your marketplace? Are you going out there and sampling yourself? If so, that must be the biggest part of why you got involved in the company, right?
Well, we certainly do get our fair share of samples, which we like. Actually, part of the exchange, we've created a whole verification aspect to it, so that people trading the barrels, are going to rely on the testing that we've done. We'll be doing lab testing. It'll be batch testing. Say out of 10,000 barrels, we'll sample whatever, 50, I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know how many we'll do, but everything will be verified. Every barrel has a serial number on it, so we'll put that on a blockchain ledger, so you can't be swapping out barrels, into the group. And it's something that's never been done boofor.
It's very cool. It's very exciting stuff. Todd, tell folks at home where they can get involved, learn more, potentially invest in this.
Sure. Just go to spiritscap.com. That's our website. You can go on there and you can click just button right on the homepage, Invest Now, and that'll walk you through everything, show you all the materials, and you can invest for as little as $500 up to whatever you'd like.
And then what are shares going for right now?
$1.75.
$1.75. That's a steal of a deal.
We think it is.
That's awesome. Todd, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much, Chris.
And that's all we have for you tonight. I'm sure the H's will buy us a barrel, right? I'm sure, right? Come on, when we get to the 1000th episode or something. Put in the work.